You think you understand women until the day you realize the most powerful sexual games they play are the ones you never even saw. Not the flirting you noticed, not the signals you thought you understood, not the moments where she let you believe you were getting closer. The real deception happens in silence, in the tiny gaps where she lets your imagination fill in the blanks, in the truths she hides, not through lies, but through flawless restraint. And here's the part that stings the most. The woman who felt different, the one who felt pure, innocent, genuine. She never told you she was any of those things. You told yourself that. You created the version of her you wanted to believe, and she knew you would. Because the sexual secrets women use aren't loud. They're subtle, psychological, invisible. They don't need to manipulate you directly. They let you deceive yourself while they carefully curate the parts of themselves you're allowed to see. Tonight, we're going to expose those secrets. The selective innocence, the controlled modesty, the gaps in her story that you were too enamored to question. You're going to learn how women shape your perception without ever lying to you, how they use your desire, your assumptions, and your fantasies to guide you exactly where they want you. And the worst part, every time you thought she was the exception, every time you thought it was real, you were falling for a carefully constructed illusion, not because she tricked you, because you needed to believe she wouldn't. Men misunderstand women because they keep expecting female sexuality to look like male sexuality, obvious, direct, and logical. But a woman's sexual behavior doesn't move in straight lines. It bends, it hides, it shifts depending on who's watching. While men reveal desire through action, women conceal desire through control. And the tragedy is this: the more subtle she becomes, the more blind you get. Women are trained from childhood to manage their sexuality like a controlled substance. They learn quickly that showing interest makes them vulnerable, and showing history makes them judged. So they master the art of being selective. Selective with what they reveal, what they hint at, and what they allow you to imagine. And because men are wired to take things at face value, they fall for the performance every time. You think she's innocent because she acts reserved. You think she's loyal because she avoids talking about her past. You think she's inexperienced because she blushes at certain topics. But here's the truth. Women aren't honest about their sexual behavior. They're strategic about it. They don't show you the truth. They show you the version that maintains their power. A woman's real sexual signals are internal, emotional, context-driven. She can want you intensely and still behave cold. She can feel nothing for you and still behave warm. What you interpret as interest might be politeness. What you interpret as modesty might be image management. What you interpret as purity might simply be silence. And that silence is intentional, because silence is the safest form of deception. She doesn't have to lie. She just has to let you assume. And men, blind, hopeful, biologically charged, fill those gaps with fantasy, not logic. That's how you misread her. Not because she fooled you, but because you wanted her to be something convenient, something comfortable, something emotionally cleaner than reality. Women express sexuality indirectly, because direct expression costs them power. Men reward mystery. Men worship innocence. Men chase what they think is rare. So women learn to keep certain truths off the table, not to harm you, but to maintain leverage. She gives you enough softness to appear genuine, enough distance to appear pure, and enough warmth to keep you close. Everything else? It stays beneath the surface, hidden behind curated behavior. You fall for the surface, thinking it's the whole story. But with women, the surface is never the whole story. It's the presentation. The core mistake men make is assuming her sexual truth is in what she shows you. It's not. Her truth hides in what she filters, in the conversations she avoids, in the details she withholds, in the emotional reactions she tones down to look safer for you. A woman's sexual history, desires, impulses, and motivations rarely appear in plain sight. They slip through cracks, changes in tone, inconsistencies in stories, emotional shifts that don't match the image she projects. And unless you learn to see those cracks, you will keep believing the version she crafted for your comfort. Here's the reality men misread the most. Women communicate sexually through ambiguity, not clarity. Through implication, not confession. Through selective expression, not transparency. And until you understand that a woman's sexual behavior is coded, layered, and strategically filtered, you will continue mistaking her mask for her identity. The most dangerous sexual deception a woman uses is the one you never notice, because it doesn't come from lies, manipulation, or dramatic behavior. It comes from what she allows you to believe. A woman can deceive you sexually without speaking a single false word. All she has to do is present half of the truth and let your imagination do the rest. And this works because men don't fall in love with facts. They fall in love with the version of her they create in their heads. When she acts shy, you label her innocent. When she avoids talking about her past, you assume it's clean. When she hesitates, you frame it as virtue. But all she did was offer selective vulnerability, the exact amount required to make you think she's not like other women. Women know exactly how powerful selective vulnerability is. They understand that if they look too confident, men assume they're experienced. If they look too comfortable, men assume they've been with many, so they choose restraint, softness, quietness, not because it reflects who they are, but because it shapes who you believe they are. She creates an emotional silhouette, half truth, half absence, and you eagerly fill in the missing pieces with your ideal fantasy. Then comes the second layer of deception, controlled modesty. Not real modesty, not moral conviction. Controlled modesty, the performance of purity. She lets certain topics make her blush. She pretends certain compliments embarrass her. She avoids eye contact at calculated moments. These micro-behaviors are not random. They're engineered to signal innocence without requiring her to claim it. And when she avoids describing her past, avoids details, avoids timelines, you reward her silence by imagining a cleaner history than she actually has. She never denied anything. She simply let you build the innocence you wanted to see. That is not lying. That is precision. Women also use curated revelation, showing you just enough to build trust, but never enough to reveal the full story. She may tell you one heartbreak, but not the 3 she caused. She may show you one trauma, but not the patterns she still repeats. She shares fragments, not the whole picture, because fragments allow you to romanticize her instead of evaluating her. Men confuse honesty with openness, but women are masters of selective honesty. They reveal emotional truths to gain sympathy, but hide sexual truths to maintain leverage. That is the quietest form of deception, letting you think you know her while she keeps entire chapters locked away. But the most subtle deception of all is silence. Silence is a woman's strongest sexual weapon. When she doesn't correct your assumptions, she's not being shy. She's letting you deceive yourself. When she doesn't clarify her past, She's not being private. She's protecting her power. When she dodges questions with softness instead of resistance, she's not avoiding conflict. She's shaping your perception. Silence lets her maintain the image you prefer, without ever having to claim it directly. And because men are eager to see women through an idealized lens, they rarely question the version they're shown. Even her emotional shifts can deceive you. A sudden wave of vulnerability makes you believe you've reached her core. A cold withdrawal makes her seem deep, complicated, mysterious. But these shifts create illusions of purity and emotional depth that have nothing to do with her real sexual identity. You start believing you chose her because you saw her truth. In reality, you chose her because she hid everything that would have changed your mind. Here's the sharp reality. Women don't deceive you with lies. They deceive you with presentation. They simply curate the version of themselves that best serves them in that moment, and let your fantasies do the rest. The hardest truth for men to accept is this: women don't hide their sexual secrets to hurt you. They hide them to control the story you build around them. And that story determines everything: how you treat them, how much you invest, how far you'll go, how blind you become. Women understand this instinctively. They know men cling to narratives. They know men fall in love with the idea of purity, loyalty, and rarity. They know men elevate the woman they believe is different. So they don't lie. They simply design the version of themselves that gives them the most emotional leverage. Men get fooled not because women manipulate aggressively, but because women manipulate subtly, silently, through omission. And women use omission because it's clean. No risk, no confrontation, no guilt. As long as she doesn't say the truth out loud, she can't be accused of deception. She lets you imagine the softer version of her, the safer version, the version that doesn't threaten your ego, and she benefits from the illusion you created. Women hide sexual truths out of fear of judgment, fear of being less valued, fear of losing the upper hand. A woman knows that once a man has her full sexual history, he may see her differently. Maybe he pulls back. Maybe he loses respect. Maybe he stops giving her the emotional power she's used to. Women don't fear the past. They fear how men will weaponize it. So they curate the parts of themselves they allow you to see. Not because they want to hurt you, but because they want control over how you react. They're not protecting their past. They're protecting your perception. This is why they master innocence. They're not pretending to be saints. They're protecting themselves from being dismissed. They're not concealing history to deceive. They're concealing it to survive male standards that most men won't admit they have. And if a woman senses that you're the kind of man who values sexual restraint, she will present restraint. If you value emotional depth, she will present vulnerability. If you value loyalty, she will present commitment. Not because she embodies these traits, but because she knows they influence the story you tell yourself about her. And once she controls your story, she controls your behavior. This is the part men reject most violently. Her deception works because it aligns with your desires, not because it contradicts them. You want her to be untouched, so you believe she is. You want her to be loyal, so you ignore signs she isn't. You want her to be honest, so you mistake silence for truth. You want her to be different, so you dismiss every red flag that suggests she isn't. Men don't get deceived because women are evil. They get deceived because they refuse to let go of the fantasy that makes them feel secure. Women hide their sexual truth because the truth destabilizes the image they want you to hold. They hide because men are quick to place value on a woman's past instead of her present. They hide because the illusion benefits them more than full disclosure ever could. They hide because controlling the story gives them power, emotional power, relational power, psychological power. And here's the darkest part. They don't need the lie to be believable. They only need the truth to be uncomfortable enough for you to avoid questioning it. Men reject this reality because it forces them to admit that the deception wasn't in her actions. It was in their expectations. She didn't fool you. You fooled yourself. She didn't craft the fantasy. You built it. All she did was let you live inside it long enough for it to serve her. And that's the dark truth. Women don't hide sexual secrets to destroy you. They hide them to shape the story that keeps you exactly where they want you. The moment you understand that women hide their sexual truths to control the story, not to harm you, but to shape your perception, you finally gain the chance to escape the illusion. Because you don't escape the sexual mask by forcing her to reveal anything. You escape it by refusing to let your desire, your hope, and your fantasies cloud your judgment. The illusion collapses the second you stop looking at her through the version you want her to be and start looking at her through the version she actually shows. Men remain trapped because they are emotionally invested in their own projection. They want to believe she's innocent, so they ignore her contradictions. They want to believe she's loyal, so they overlook the gaps in her story. They want to believe she's honest, so they treat her silence like purity. Escaping the illusion begins with killing the version of her that exists only in your mind, the version built from selective vulnerability, controlled modesty, and your own fear of confronting the truth. To see through the sexual mask, you must read her actions, not the image you've built around her. Women reveal themselves in patterns, not in confessions. A woman's consistency tells you more about her than her words ever will. A woman's boundaries, her emotional discipline, her approach to attention, her reactions under pressure. These are her truths, not the curated softness she uses when she wants to appear innocent, not the strategic distance she uses when she wants you to chase, not the fragments she shares to appear open. You must train yourself to see the difference between authenticity and performance. Because beneath the performance is the real woman, flawed, complex, imperfect. And until you're willing to meet that woman, you'll keep getting deceived by masks. The truth is that the deception only works because you want something from her. You want validation. You want intimacy. You want certainty. And wanting makes men blind. Wanting makes men interpret minimal gestures as deep signals. Wanting makes men overlook red flags because the fantasy feels better than the truth. If you want to escape the illusion, you must detach from the need to make her special. You must detach from the instinct to idealize her because she gives you attention. You must detach from the fear that seeing her clearly will ruin the connection. Seeing clearly doesn't ruin the connection. It reveals whether the connection ever existed in the first place. The real liberation happens when you develop emotional detachment, not coldness, but clarity. When you stop reacting to her ambiguity and start evaluating it. When you stop chasing her silence and start questioning it. When you stop rewarding her curated innocence and start reading the gaps she tries to hide. Detachment makes you immune to manipulation because you're no longer driven by the fantasy she benefits from. You're driven by truth, and truth exposes masks effortlessly. The psychological emancipation begins the moment you stop needing her to be innocent. You stop craving the validation that comes from believing you found a good one. You stop personalizing her past and start analyzing her present. You start noticing the inconsistencies, the convenient stories, the rehearsed vulnerability, the sudden emotional shifts designed to distract you from asking deeper questions. And when you notice these things, the mask dissolves. Not because she removed it, but because you stopped painting it on her. Escaping the illusion isn't about controlling women. It's about controlling your mind. It's about refusing to be seduced by the version of her that protects her power and feeds your fantasy. And once you escape that inner trap, once you see without embellishment, without projection, without emotional fog, she loses all power to deceive you. Not because she changed, but because you finally learned to see. Now we arrive at the moment that decides who you become after hearing all of this. Because once you see through the sexual mask, once the illusions dissolve and the fantasy collapses, you are no longer allowed to play the role of the blind man who didn't know better. You can't unknow the truth. You can't unsee the patterns. You can't unfeel the clarity. You either rise into a sharper version of yourself, or you fall back into the same traps you now recognize. And this is where most men fail. Not because women deceive them, but because they willingly return to the comfort of the fantasy. They choose the illusion over the truth because the illusion feels safer, easier, softer. But that softness is a cage. That comfort is a trap. The price of staying blind is losing yourself over and over again to women who only showed you the version they wanted you to worship. The real transformation happens the moment you stop negotiating with your imagination, when you stop giving women credit they haven't earned, when you stop romanticizing ambiguity, when you stop pretending that not knowing the truth is somehow better than facing it. Clarity may hurt you once, but delusion destroys you repeatedly. The man who sees clearly makes decisions from power. The man who clings to fantasy makes decisions from fear. And fear is the fuel that keeps you falling for curated innocence, selective vulnerability, and the emotionally engineered masks women present when they want to shape your perception. But now you're no longer the man who gets shaped. You're the man who evaluates. You're the man who notices patterns instead of words. You're the man who listens to actions instead of stories. When a woman reveals only fragments, you no longer fill the gaps with fantasy. You fill them with questions. When she hides her past behind softness, you don't worship her innocence. You analyze her motives. When she controls the story, you don't surrender your power. You take back the pen. That is the identity shift. You stop being the man who gets chosen, deceived, molded, idealized, and you become the man who chooses consciously, sees accurately, and walks away fearlessly. And here's the beauty of it. When you stop needing her to be something she isn't, you become impossible to manipulate. You see the full woman, flaws, history, contradictions, desires, and you choose based on truth rather than fantasy. The right women are drawn to this version of you. The wrong women repel themselves. Your clarity becomes a filter. Your perception becomes a weapon. Your standards become protection. This is the point where you stop being prey to the image she presents, and you start becoming the man she can't hide from. If this hit you somewhere uncomfortable, let it sit. Let it burn. Let it reshape you. Because discomfort is the doorway to evolution. And if this opened your eyes, what comes next will crack them wide open. Because sexual masks are one thing, but emotional masks are another. Women don't just shape how you see their sexuality. They shape how you see their vulnerability, their softness, their love. And that manipulation runs deeper than desire. It touches your heart, your loyalty, your identity.